So, Craig, what about you? Are you concerned about, BMO being a world-class stadium too?
No, not really. I think, when I look at all the stadiums that are involved, you look at,
Right.
you know, you probably pick the two Canadian ones as the weakest of the group, I would say. But I think by the time they do the refurbishment and everything else, it'll be a really tight, proper soccer specific stadium that will be absolutely rocking. So it can be very, very good. And I think by the end of it, they'll put on a really good show and it'll look really, really nice. So I think there's no issues there.
Well, also don't forget that a big part of the World Cups is the viewing experience outside the stadiums, the fan zones,
Right.
and BMO's perfect for that.
Right.
Around the whole stadium. This is not like your typical urban stadium where it's just in Europe where you're surrounded by housing and stuff, right? This is you got all that property, all that real estate to throw a lot of stuff onto for the people that actually aren't in the stadium.
Well, I tell you what, Bob and I experienced that very thing. Gosh, I hate to tell you, 12 years ago now at the Olympics in Vancouver, and which was across the street from BC Place Stadium, and they did a marvelous job with everything with the hospitality and that whole concept of an Olympic village for the games in 2010. I suspect that will occur the same way in Vancouver. So, but just get rid of some housekeeping. So now, first of all, here's the first comment. Did anybody understand why Kevin Hart was on the launch? Does anybody understand why Kevin? Seriously,
or Kim Kardashian.
Well, I could understand Kim Kardashian.
Maybe, Sorry. Yeah, maybe. I don't get. Isn't it weird when you get like a suit in Johnny Infantino trying to be funny with a comedian? It's so awkward.
Yeah, I do. Thank goodness we saw James Duthie. I felt happy we saw James Duthie. I felt relieved that there was somebody I knew and he was actually quite professional about it. It was kind of different. So, but what the next steps in all of this? We know that there's 13 games in Canada, 13 in Mexico, but when do we see the draw? When do we see who Canada plays with? James, what's the timeline on that? Do you have any idea?
Well, there's still 45 berths to fight for, right? Because qualifying, it's just begun in South America.
Oh, yeah, we're in. That's right. We don't have to worry about that.
We're in. 3 teams are in, 45 to fight for. The draw will be made in January, I believe, of 2026. So we got a long time to overthink this and overanalyze this and think about. Now, the good news is, as Craig mentioned, that Canada as a host should be seeded into one of the top pots, maybe pot 1. So potentially it should be a more comfortable draw than perhaps it would have been otherwise. Now, there's no comfortable draw for Canada per se, right, Craig? But that being said, there might be a route through this group.
Yeah, the real issue is whether Canada will be any good. We were very optimistic at the last World Cup, and we had a lot of reason to be optimistic. We aren't feeling that way for this one, are we? I'm not.
Well, I mean, we talked about a little bit about the squad and then how they certainly are a squad offensively that can score goals. They'll create problems for teams. We saw that at the World Cup. Defensively is an issue. I think we need 2 or 3 players in the back, and we'll need a new goalkeeper as well. Borjan will be probably too
90 years old by then, won't he?
Exactly. So it'll be rolling him out in a wheelchair otherwise. But we do have some strong goalkeepers coming through, and certainly are really, really looking forward to having the opportunity to play for Canada. And it's there for them to take that opportunity and be the main starting goalkeeper in 26, which is exciting for those backups right now.
So let's talk about a little deeper about Canada. We've unfortunately, with what happened in Qatar, the departure of John Herdman, the soap opera that is Soccer Business Canada, or whatever you want to call it. Where are we with our game, James, in our country right now? What are we fragile? Are things pointed in the right direction? What's going on?
It's just, I think at this point, a lot of confusion. We don't know what the future lies in. They haven't got a general secretary. That's the key hire. They thought they had a general secretary in Alison Walker, but she, on the day she was going to start, she pulled out for personal reasons. We don't know why.
Right.
So that sets us back on that person is the most important part of Canadian soccer, more important than the president. They will be the person tasked with, financing this program, getting the commercial deals in place, finding broadcast partners. The most important job in Canadian football is the general secretary. So until they get that person, and who knows who that person is going to be, it's hard to say, because their first task will be to get a permanent head coach.